Hello there everyone, and welcome to the first installment of AMTV WHO News. Yes, that's right, we're going to be doing updates, news around the world of Doctor Who. Everything from updates on the current series, or the specials, or any 60th anniversary stuff, but also different fields as well, like for example, what we're going to be talking about today. So this concerns Doctor Who animations. So it's been no secret that over the last decade, missing episodes of Doctor Who have received the animated treatment. Now, for anyone who might be new to this, I doubt many of you are, but just in case, back in the 60s, not much telly was necessarily preserved as it is today. A lot of Doctor episodes no longer exist in their original visual form, unfortunately, quite a lot actually. In fact, we have 97 episodes of the show that are still missing from the archives. However, due to fan tenacity at the time, all of the audio for all of these stories was in fact recorded and therefore saved. So by using the audio animation teams together with whether they're telesnaps, photographs of the time, camera directions, stage directions, have been able to recreate these animations to give them a whole new lease of life to Doctor Who fans such as me and you. But of course, we've had a good run the last few years. The Abominable Snowmen from 2022 was perceived to be the last one for at least a while. How it worked was BBC was doing co-funding, BBC Studios with BBC America. Therefore, they were working together to produce these. One of the conditions, of course, being that they would be produced in colour as well as in black and white. And the whole story would be animated regardless of any episode survived. So using the Abominable Snowmen as an example, episode 2 survives in the archives. However, that was also animated along with the rest of it for the eventual home media release. So when this came to an end in the autumn of last year, I think a lot of fans, including myself, did think, hey, it's going to be at least, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. We have had long gaps before. Remember back when we had the invasion all the way back in 2006? Hard to believe it was that long ago, well over 15 years. It was a whole 7 years before we got the Reign of Terror, which was the next animation, of course. But it seems they may be coming back sooner than we think, in fact later this year in 2023. This story was broken by a journalist at The Mirror. This is Nicola Methven, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Now first off the bat, some people might be saying, Adam, it's The Mirror, come on. But The Mirror, and particularly journalists such as Nicola, they have been right on the money with Doctor Who stuff as of recent years. Now I don't know whether they have a contact on the inside or if it's just lucky speculation. I'm not really sure. So at the minute, the time of recording, please do take this with a pinch of salt. This has not been officially announced nor confirmed by the BBC or BBC Studios. So yeah, pinch of salt. But hey, exciting nonetheless. So the headline goes with lost Doctor Who episodes brought back using cartoons to mark 60th anniversary. Animations, I suppose, but cartoons works as well. So lost Doctor Who episodes are being brought back to life using cartoons and colour. To mark the sci-fi show's 60th anniversary this year, 2 stories from the 60s are to be drawn and released on Blu-ray and DVD. Well, drawn, I guess more computerly drawn. Digitally drawn? Is that correct? They are William Hartnell's penultimate story, The Smugglers, and Patrick Troughton's third adventure, The Underwater Menace. Both 4-part stories were originally transmitted by the BBC before film prints were sold overseas and the original tapes were destroyed. Episodes 2 and 3 of The Underwater Menace have been recovered, but only brief clips from The Smugglers story exist. That's all factually true. The Smugglers is completely missing. The penultimate William Hartnell adventure, all to do with pirates and whatnot, one of the last, I guess, pure historicals that the show did in its initial run in the 60s. And I've heard a lot of mixed reception on this, if true. The Smugglers is rarely anyone's favourite, and I don't mean that in a horrible way, but when people look at any Doctor Who story, particularly from this era, The Smugglers is one that I seldom see come to the top. But it's pirates, it's William Hartnell, his first proper adventure with Ben and Polly, the 2 young hip 60s kids of the era. So I think that's quite exciting. That's quite a draw for me. And more William Hartnell's great as well, because in terms of the animations, we've had nowhere near as many William Hartnells as we've had Patrick Troughton's, So, what have we had? We've had the 2 episodes of The Reign of Terror, we've had Galaxy 4, and is that it? I think that's literally it so far, which, is a crying shame, really. Oh, and The 10th Planet, of course, 1 episode of The 10th Planet. But yeah, there's so many great Hartnell stories that are missing that deserve that treatment. So I'm glad that The Smugglers is getting it as well. As for The Underwater Menace, now, this has been released on DVD before, back in 2015. Episodes 2 and 3, as it says here, were, it presents because they existed. Episodes 1 and 4, however, were represented by a very rushed telesnap reconstruction. There's a whole behind-the-scenes drama as to why that was the way it was and why it wasn't animated, because animations were a thing for Doctor Who around that time. So, a lot of people were like, why is this happening? Why are they doing this? So yeah, that's something to take into account. But, and again, this is all just speculation for the Underwater Menace. Are they just going to animate episodes 1 and 4, or are they going to animate the whole thing? I guess it depends on the new deal, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. An insider, oh god, don't you love that word? An insider, that could be anybody. Fans have been delighted as the show's 4th season has been slowly restored through animated episodes. Only 10 of the 43 broadcast episodes still exist, so we're getting to see the missing classics, which is true. Season 4 has one of the worst turnaround rates for missing episodes, but now, if these rumours are true and these stories are being animated, that literally just leaves the Highlanders, which was the story that introduced Jamie. That would be the only story from Season 4 not to be represented either in its entirety or in animated form. Then, of course, you could say if we've got the Highlanders, that has a complete Season 4, then you can talk about a Season 4 box set for the collection series and all that. So that is quite an exciting prospect. And I see a lot of people say, why was it not Season 3 that has way more missing stories? And that's technically true. But if we're going for Season 4 completion, I kind of see the logic in maybe sorting that out first. Continuing on, it said last year the BBC ended the release of animated versions after BBC America stopped funding the restoration of early stories, but new funding has been arranged. Now, this is the big one. As mentioned, BBC America were the co-funders in this. They are no longer that. It is a brand new company. Apparently, it's not Disney. It says it at the bottom of this article, actually. It says the animation deal is not connected to the show's tie-up with Disney+, which might surprise a lot of people, because with the Disney deal, which for anyone, again, who maybe is out of the loop, Disney+ is going to be distributing new episodes of Doctor Who around the world except the UK and Ireland, and they're also, I believe, contributing some money to the show. So I think in terms of animations, a lot of people were like, hey, Disney's going to front the cash. They've got the cash. Obviously, they've got their own experience in animation. They can do this. But according to the Mirror, this journalist and the source or whatever, it's got nothing to do with that. So I do wonder who they found. Is it a private investor, like more of an individual, or have they gone with another animation company specifically, or is it another broadcaster? We don't know at this point. And again, it's really important to reiterate that this isn't officially confirmed, but again, this article's here, the Radio Times is running with it, a lot of other articles are running with it, so hopefully we'd like to see it come to fruition later this year. The final bit from the Mirror, it says, and this is a bit surprising for a lot of us, BBC bosses plan to colorise certain stories from the Hartnell and Troughton eras for broadcast next year, likely to include the very first story, An Unearthly Child. Now, this definitely threw off a lot of people. Colorisations in Doctor Who, fans have been doing this for years, very talented fans who have taken either short clips or entire episodes and been able to put them in colour to as close as what it would have been at the time. Of course, the Hartnell and Troughton eras weren't filmed in colour, so you can't recover the raw colour footage, but attempting to make them, if they had been filmed in colour, what would they look like is always an interesting prospect. So fans have been doing that for ages, and of course, as I said, for the animations have been presented in colour also, which, when I personally watch them, I watch them in black and white because that's as close to how they would have been seen, but I know a lot of people who like to watch them in colour, which again, that's completely valid. You do you. If you enjoy it in colour, you go for it. But I like the black and white ones. But actually, the BBC themselves, or maybe again with an outside partner, actually colorizing Doctor Who episodes, that is a very, very exciting prospect. I mean, just from a technical standpoint, I doubt they'd broadcast that on BBC One necessarily. Maybe An Unearthly Child on BBC One, just because it was the very first Doctor Who story. That might make sense. But in terms of the others, maybe that would be more of a BBC 4 thing, something a bit more artsy, something a bit more in that realm, in that field. I can see that happening. But again, it says select stories. So, Unearthly Child makes sense. I mean, would they do... well, I would say Patrick Troughton's opener, but it doesn't exist. It only exists in animated form. Maybe the War Games? Oh, imagine seeing the War Games in colour, all 10 episodes of it. How glorious would that be? So I'm not against this idea. I'm all for trying out these new experimental things, as long as the original versions are still an option, which of course these are. Every story that can be released to DVD, whether in animated or its original form, has been, so it's not like they're being taken away, it's just a new outlet, and I'm personally very excited for that. There's no, again, this is all reported, it's like they plan to do this, they're also, it could be around the anniversary, around November, but then with that clash with the RTD specials, we really don't know at this point. Again, it's all up in the air, it's all speculation, but I just want to say, how exciting is it that we're finally getting, even just an idea, a prospect that the Doctor Who animations might come back. I loved them, a lot of you guys loved them, it'd be great to have them restored, and I mean, once you finish those two and then the Highlanders, where'd you go from there? Well, Season 6 just needs one story, Season 5 also, The Crusade technically does, but that got released on the collection sets without an animation, so I doubt they'd go back for that. But do you know what I mean? It's like we're so close. We're so close to having, I think, more than half now of all of Doctor Who's missing episodes fully animated, which is insane. You know, if you'd asked fans who were around like 20, 30 years ago, the idea that animations of missing episodes were even possible would have seemed like, you know, you were insane. But it's happening. And it's so cool. I'm really excited. Hopefully this is confirmed by the BBC. Again, important stress, it isn't at the moment. But again, these sources from the Mirror have been right most of the time over the past few years. So if that's the case, bring on the Smugglers, bring on the Underwater Menace. My personal opinions, I don't think they're the greatest stories of all time. I think, you know, Doctor Who has had better adventures throughout the years, especially in the black and white era, but even just to get a chance to visualize these stories via animation, like the Smugglers again with all the pirate stuff, and the Underwater Menace for all the wacky like fish people stuff. Professor Zaroff is like the most cartoony villain ever, so I'd be all for these. Fingers crossed that it's going to happen. But that's all for this episode of AMTV WHO News. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, it's our inaugural episode, our very first one. So please, if you enjoyed it, do leave a like on this video and subscribe here at AMTV WHO. We'd love to have you aboard. We want to grow this channel, and we're going to have lots of content coming for you over the next few weeks and months. So I really hope you stick around for that. Hit the bell. You'll get the notifications as well. So I've been Adam Martin from AMTV WHO. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.